What if I told you the reason you're exhausted isn't because life is hard? It's because you're still trying to control everything. You're gripping outcomes, forcing plans, chasing certainty in a world that never promised it. They trained you to believe that if you just held on tighter, you'd win. But no one told you that the tighter you cling, the faster everything slips away. That control you're chasing, it was never real. And every time you try to manage what was never yours to own, you bleed energy, you carry dead weight, people, expectations, illusions, and wonder why peace never stays. Here's your truth. Control is the cage. Detachment is the key. The moment you stop needing outcomes, approval, or perfection, you begin to move with silent strength. No panic, no pleading, no performance. Just presence, just precision, just power. We don't chase peace. We build it. We train the mind to observe, not react, to let go, not cling. Because the less you let own your mind, the more dangerous you become. So ask yourself, are you ready to drop the illusion and become untouchable? Comment this now. I hold nothing. Nothing holds me. Let's begin. Number 1, the illusion of control. Control is the most seductive illusion we chase, yet it drains our strength the instant we claim it. Epictetus warned that we suffer not from events, but from our judgments about them. Imagine gripping sand in your fist. The tighter you squeeze, the faster it escapes. Likewise, when you micromanage outcomes, relationships, and timing, life becomes that sand. The more you try to dominate it, the more it slips away. And very soon after, you begin to realize your suffering isn't caused by the world itself, but by your resistance to its unpredictability. As the plot thickened in Marcus Aurelius' reign, plagues, uprisings, and betrayal tested every boundary of his rule. Yet he wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." This wasn't detachment from responsibility, it was radical clarity. He understood something most people avoid their entire lives. The external world is chaos on lease. The only domain that's truly yours is how you meet it, moment by moment, breath by breath, thought by thought. To illustrate, take Michael Jordan during the 1997 NBA Finals, mid-series. He was hit with a severe flu. Suddenly, every physical variable veered beyond his control. And yet, instead of collapsing into self-pity, he narrowed his focus to what remained in his circle of power: his attitude, his decisions, the next possession. Consequently, he delivered a performance now etched in history. That night wasn't about physical dominance, it was mental sovereignty under pressure. What's more, he won not by controlling the game, but by controlling himself in spite of the chaos. Yet most people never realize they're dancing on a leash. They try to shape how others see them, force outcomes, or avoid discomfort. And every time reality disobeys, they spiral. Why? Because they mistake emotional investment for control. They believe that caring deeply should guarantee results. But the Stoic knows better. The Stoic draws a firm border. Outside, weather, people, outcomes. Inside, values, perceptions, choices. And by guarding that border fiercely, they reclaim their strength from the outside world. Moreover, detachment is not apathy, it's precision. Whenever you send a message, pursue a goal, or speak your truth, do it fully, but then release it. Let the results come as they will. That distance doesn't make you cold, it makes you wise. Expectations no longer squeeze you like a vice. You learn to interpret outcomes as signals, not verdicts. In time, this becomes your quiet advantage, a centered presence that remains calm when others collapse. That's what makes you dangerous, not because you feel less, but because you manage more. Indeed, Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, choose not to be harmed, and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed, and you haven't been. That's not denial, that's disciplined perception. So when your plans break, don't break with them. Instead, pause and ask, what part of this moment is mine to govern? Then act only from that space. Everything else is wind, passing, shifting, irrelevant to your control. And above all, remember the lesson of the archer. He steadies his breath, sights the target, and releases. But after the release, wind and time take over. If he obsesses over what he can't control, his hand will tremble before he ever lets go. The wise archer masters the draw, then lets the arrow fly. That's not giving up, it's giving over. That's not weakness, it's wisdom. The world belongs to chaos, but your peace, that belongs to you. Your peace is your only possession. Treat it like gold. Comment this now. My control begins where illusion ends. Number 2, self as the only domain. Everything you think you own outside yourself is temporary. Your job, your relationship, your reputation, none of it is truly yours. It can be taken, twisted, or lost without warning. The only thing that belongs entirely to you is your mind, your thoughts, your judgments, your character. That is the only domain you'll ever fully command. And yet most people spend their entire lives ignoring it. They fight for control over circumstances, outcomes, and other people, while their own mind runs wild, untrained, and undisciplined. This right here is the silent tragedy of modern life. Epictetus said, "You may fetter my leg, but my will not even Zeus himself can overpower." That's not poetry, that's ownership. The Stoics were obsessed with internal sovereignty. They knew you can't always control the wind, but you can adjust your sail. In other words, they didn't seek to rule the world. They trained to rule themselves. Their victories were invisible, but they were absolute. Let's look at a modern example. Consider Elon Musk. Whether you admire him or not, one thing is clear. His strength comes not from controlling markets, critics, or governments, but from intense personal responsibility. When SpaceX rockets exploded on live TV, he didn't lash out. When Tesla missed deadlines and shareholders panicked, he didn't crumble. He recalibrated, quietly, strategically. He stayed anchored in the only place he could lead without interference. His internal process, his mindset, his vision. And because of that, the chaos around him never dictated the quality of his focus. That's Stoicism at scale, commanding the inside while adapting to the outside. By contrast, most people break down at the first sign of resistance. They get ghosted and they unravel. Someone disagrees with them and they spiral. A single bad day ruins their entire week. But this isn't just emotional fragility. It's misplaced control. They've outsourced their peace to things they don't own, and when those things slip, they go with them. That's not power, that's bondage. The Stoic reverses the equation. He doesn't avoid difficulty, he prepares for it. He builds routines, values, and principles that act like walls. So when life throws chaos at him, it doesn't knock him over. It hits a fortress, Seneca wrote. He who is brave is free. And that bravery isn't loud or aggressive, it's silent and internal. It's the courage to say, I will not allow what I cannot control to control me. Furthermore, the fewer things you need to feel whole, the stronger you become. The fewer people you rely on for validation, the more independent you feel. Inner peace isn't built on comfort, it's built on clarity. When you reduce your dependencies, your clarity sharpens. You no longer react to every insult, every shift in tone, every change in the weather. You move from being emotionally accessible to emotionally sovereign. You go from being predictable to unreadable. And that unreadability, that inner mystery, is where power quietly begins to take shape. So when plans fall apart, you don't fall with them. When people leave, you don't beg them to stay. When the world changes, you remain steady. because you were never leaning on it to begin with, and that shift changes everything. You stop living like a tenant in your own life. You become the owner, not of things, but of yourself. Let them misunderstand you. Let them doubt you. Let them project their chaos onto you. None of it matters. Your job is not to fix the world. It's to master the only domain that was ever yours. Comment this now. I am my only territory. Everything else is noise. Number 3, mental control, the fortress within. Imagine your mind as a fortress, cold, silent, impenetrable. Now ask yourself, how many back doors have you left open? How many people have the keys? How many thoughts are walking in, uninvited, while you stand by, unaware? Most people don't protect their mind, they decorate it. They fill it with noise, with gossip, with fears and fantasies. And then they wonder why it collapses under pressure. But the Stoics knew, if your thoughts are not under your command, someone else is commanding your life. Marcus Aurelius didn't live in a monastery. He ruled an empire. And yet he carved out time each morning to sit quietly and filter his own mind. Why? Because even as emperor, he knew he couldn't afford to let the world dictate the quality of his thinking. He wrote, "The things you think about determine the quality of your mind." Mental control, to him, wasn't optional. It was essential. It was how he stayed grounded while storms raged around him. Now consider Steve Jobs. He wasn't known for brute force or emotional displays. His presence was silent but sharp. His influence came from clarity, an almost sacred obsession with focus. He eliminated distractions, reduced mental clutter, and made silence part of his thinking process. His control over what entered his mental space gave him a precision that few ever reach. While others reacted, he paused. While others scrambled, he studied. And when he moved, it was always with calculated force. This will blow your mind, but most of the stress you feel wasn't placed there by the world. It was placed there by your own unfiltered thoughts. The undisciplined mind is a danger to itself. It overthinks, it spirals, it chases things it doesn't need. And then, when overwhelmed, it blames the outside. But the disciplined mind, it observes, it waits, it filters. It strikes only when necessary. That's not apathy, that's mastery. Furthermore, your calm becomes your edge. In high-pressure moments, people instinctively look toward those who don't flinch. Silence becomes strength. Pauses become power. Most people broadcast their emotions like signal flares. You turn yours into shadows. Not because you're hiding, but because you've trained your emotions to serve you, not sabotage you. Your restraint becomes your signature. Every thought that enters your mind is a seed. Some grow roots, others rot. So you must ask constantly, does this thought make me stronger or weaker? If it weakens you, eliminate it. No debate. If a person drains your clarity, cut access. If an environment creates chaos, create space. That isn't cruelty, that's clarity. That's how you defend the gates. Seneca said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." And that's true. Most of our pain doesn't come from the event, but from the thought spiral that follows. And until you master those spirals, they will own you. But once you control what enters, what stays, and what exits, you reclaim your mind from the world. You stop being a sponge, you become a sword. So from this moment forward, stop leaking access. Stop narrating every emotion. Stop reacting to every impulse. You are not a hallway. You are a locked gate, a fortress, a force of intention. Comment this now. My mind is a fortress. Nothing enters without my command. Number 4, the power of not reacting. Every time you react, you donate power to the thing that provoked you, your energy, your attention, your composure, gone in a blink. Yet when you hold steady, chaos loses its teeth. Epictetus framed it simply. If someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit, reaction is permission, silence is sovereignty. First of all, picture a lake at dawn, toss a stone, ripples race outward, clarity disappears. That's your mind when you flinch at every insult, every headline, every unexpected detour. But then, remove the stone, let the surface settle, and the water becomes a mirror again. The Stoic trains for that stillness, not as a hollow calm, but as operational dominance. Consider Michelle Obama during the 2008 campaign. Under vicious scrutiny, she faced mockery, rumor, and relentless commentary on her appearance, her patriotism, even her sincerity. Yet over and over, she refused to snap back. She listened, paused, and answered with measured grace. Journalists later admitted that her restraint disarmed critics more effectively than any angry rebuttal. She followed a Stoic script: control the response, influence the narrative. Her calm became a force field. Similarly, Kobe Bryant practiced what he called the invisible game. Trash talk, bad calls, scoreboard swings. He absorbed them in silence, letting opponents assume they'd pierced his armor. Then, without warning, he'd shift gears, surgically dismantling their defense. That gap between provocation and response, that invisible game, is where victories are decided long before the buzzer. Moreover, non-reaction is not suppression. It is selection. You pause, you filter, you decide what deserves expression and what dies unborn. That pause is your forge. With each passing second, emotion cools, perspective widens, strategy crystallizes. Meanwhile, the agitator wonders why their fire can't melt your ice. They grow louder and you grow clearer. Furthermore, refusal to react disrupts patterns. Bullies depend on outrage. Trolls thrive on attention. Manipulators feed on volatility. When you offer none, they are left wrestling their own echoes. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his journal, "Stop talking about what a good man is and be one." Translate that to reaction. Stop protesting calm. Embody it. Let them feel your restraint like cold marble under their fists. Indeed, the hidden advantage of stillness is data. While others are busy flailing, you are busy watching, connecting dots, counting breaths, plotting angles. The less you broadcast, the more you observe. Observation converts into leverage. Leverage converts into timing. Timing converts into victory. However, there will be moments when action is required. Non-reaction does not mean inertia. It means you choose the battlefield. You respond when the outcome aligns with your principles, never when ego begs for release. Nelson Mandela endured 27 years in prison and emerged without public bitterness. Yet when it was time to negotiate South Africa's future, he acted decisively, channeling decades of contained resolve. His pause was his power, his action precise. Above all, remember, mastery is repetition. Finally, train this skill daily. When someone cuts you off in traffic, breathe. When a colleague steals credit, observe. When a friend misjudges you, let the story play out and watch perception reshape itself. Reaction is easy. Anyone can combust. Discipline is rare. That's why it dominates. Comment this now. My pause is my power. Nothing ever controls me without my deliberate, conscious consent. Number 5, strategic detachment, emotionless efficiency. Detachment is not the absence of emotion, it's the discipline of it. Most people think being cold is a sign of strength, but true power doesn't come from shutting down. It comes from choosing what to let in, what to let go, and what to let pass through you untouched. Real detachment isn't about not caring, it's about caring wisely. You can love someone with your whole heart and still walk away the moment that love starts costing your peace. That's not cruelty, that's clarity. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Strategic detachment begins the moment you stop outsourcing your emotional state to things outside your control, people's attention, their validation, their approval. None of it belongs to you. Yet most people build their self-worth on those foundations. And when those things shift, they crumble. But the Stoic doesn't crumble. He recalibrates. He chooses stillness over chaos, distance over dysfunction. Take Keanu Reeves. He's endured unthinkable loss. His best friend, his partner, even his unborn child. And yet he moves through the world with quiet grace, calm detachment, and grounded dignity. He doesn't wear his suffering like a costume. He doesn't broadcast his grief to earn sympathy. He processes it in silence. That's the Stoic way, not because pain doesn't exist, but because it doesn't get to lead. Keanu's detachment isn't numbness. It's emotional mastery. Furthermore, strategic detachment is control through subtraction. You don't feel powerful because you've added more. You feel powerful because you've removed what weakens you. You cut off the drama. You step back from the chaos. You say no, not out of spite, but out of self-respect. And when someone crosses a line, you don't scream. You vanish. You don't plead for understanding. You choose invisibility over entanglement. What's more, you must learn to observe without absorbing. Not every insult is worth your attention. Not every shift in mood is your responsibility to fix. Epictetus reminds us, it's not things that upset us, but our judgment about things. That's the core of Stoic detachment. It's not about shutting down your heart. It's about strengthening your filter. You zoom out, you hold the line, you stop being an emotional sponge, and you become the architect of your reaction. Detachment also means severing your identity from outcomes. You show up, you do the work, and then you release it. Most people suffer in the space between effort and expectation. They cling to what they cannot control, and it devours them. But you move differently. You do, then you let go. That's not passivity, that's positioning. And importantly, detachment is sacred discipline. It's choosing to remain steady in a world designed to shake you. It's giving without needing thanks. It's loving without owning. It's caring without collapsing. It's showing up in silence and walking away without explanation. So the next time your phone buzzes and you feel no rush to respond, that's power. The next time someone disrespects you and your silence says more than words ever could, that's elevation. You're not avoiding the world. You're refining your position in it. You're trading emotional exposure for inner stability. Comment this now. I walk light, I cut sharp. What doesn't serve, doesn't stay. Number 6, dominance through absence. Most people think power is about presence, about being loud, being seen, being the biggest personality in the room. But real dominance, true psychological leverage, is rooted not in presence, but in absence. The ability to pull back, to go silent, to remove your energy without warning. That's when the real shift happens. Because very soon after, your silence becomes louder than anything you could have said. You see, in today's world, everyone is broadcasting, everyone is fighting to be noticed. But the Stoic doesn't play that game. He doesn't compete for attention. He withholds it. He doesn't raise his voice. He vanishes, and in that vanishing act, power is born. Not the kind that shouts, but the kind that leaves a question mark behind. The kind that makes people rethink everything once you're gone. When you remove yourself mentally, emotionally, physically, you disrupt the rhythm, and what they feel is not just your absence. It's the realization of how much they depended on your presence to feel powerful themselves. That's the secret. The one who disappears breaks the pattern, and when you break the pattern, you break their control. Marcus Aurelius practiced this in his own way. He didn't lash out when betrayed. He didn't argue to be understood. He withdrew into silence, into solitude, into pages that were never meant to be read. Why? Because he knew something most people never understand. Clarity is born in quiet. Strength is forged in retreat. And sometimes the most strategic move is to not show up at all. Additionally, your absence forces others to carry their own weight. As long as you're present, explaining, fixing, reacting, they're comfortable. But the moment you step back, they're left with themselves. And that space, it becomes a mirror, one they can't escape. One that shows them who they are when you're no longer there to absorb their dysfunction. Consider this. When Leonardo da Vinci felt misunderstood, he didn't fight the crowd. He disappeared into his work. He created in silence, withdrew from drama, and re-emerged only when he had something powerful to reveal. His silence wasn't weakness, it was pressure building underground. Moreover, absence recalibrates relationships. It draws new boundaries without needing a single word. And to everyone's surprise, it often commands more respect than any loud confrontation. You don't explain yourself. You don't correct the record. You exit the stage, and suddenly they're left performing alone. But remember, dominance through absence is not ghosting. It's not passive aggression. It's strategic silence. You're not punishing. You're positioning. You're showing what happens when your energy is no longer free, your presence no longer automatic. That shift shakes people. They start to question, recalculate, even panic. And in that uncertainty, your influence expands without saying a single word. So when the world demands your reaction, retreat. When someone disrespects you, go silent. When the urge to prove yourself rises, don't. Let the stillness say it all. Let the void speak for you, because in that silence, they hear everything they used to ignore. You don't need to fight. You don't need to explain. You need only to disappear with purpose, with clarity, with finality. As Seneca wrote, sometimes even to live is an act of courage, and sometimes to disappear is the boldest move of all. Comment this now. My silence rewrites the room. I don't disappear to escape. I disappear to dominate. Number 7, the unreadable mind. If they can read you, they can reach you. And if they can reach you, they can influence you, control you, manipulate you. That's why the mind must become a locked vault. No leaks, no hints, no trails to follow. In a world addicted to oversharing and overreacting, unreadability is power. And this power, it's not loud, it's quiet. It's in your ability to remain still while others tremble, to observe while others confess, to think while others spill everything they are to anyone who'll listen. Let's be honest, most people wear their emotions like neon signs. One wrong glance and you see their insecurity. One delay in a message and they spiral. They laugh nervously, they fidget, they text too quickly, they speak too much just to fill the silence. But the one who controls their internal broadcast, that's the one you can't figure out. And what you can't figure out, you can't control. Epictetus warned us, any person capable of angering you becomes your master. And what is anger but a broadcast of your vulnerability? What is jealousy, over-explaining, people-pleasing? They're all emotional fingerprints, clues, evidence, and manipulators use them like maps. But when there's no signal, no reaction, just calm, they're lost. They don't know which string to pull because you've cut them all. For instance, look at someone like Elon Musk. Whether you love him or not, his ability to remain unreadable is part of his power. He doesn't explain every move. He tweets cryptically. He speaks when he chooses. And often it's hard to know if it's strategy or impulse. And that very uncertainty gives him control. It creates space. It bends attention, because silence forces others to fill in the blanks. And what they imagine is often more powerful than the truth. Additionally, being unreadable isn't about pretending you don't feel. It's about mastering the space between emotion and expression. It's about knowing that not every thought deserves to be spoken, and not every feeling deserves a stage. Marcus Aurelius put it clearly: the best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury. So when they provoke you, stay unreadable. When they gossip, don't flinch. When they pressure you for answers, let them sit with the silence. Because here's the secret: when you're unreadable, you become a psychological black hole. People can't pull what they can't see. They start second-guessing their own behavior around you. They feel watched, measured, but never sure. And that uncertainty, it shifts the balance of power. You become the variable they can't predict. You become a mystery in a world full of open books. That is your leverage, your mystery, your weapon. And very soon after, the roles reverse. Those who once tried to study you now feel exposed in your silence. You're not ignoring them. You're analyzing them. Additionally, consider the late Steve Jobs. Rarely did he reveal what he was really thinking in the boardroom. He let others speak. He let silence stretch. And then when he did speak, one sentence could shift the room, not because it was loud, but because it came from someone who mastered the art of mystery. The Stoic ideal isn't about suppressing thought. It's about choosing when and how to reveal it, with power, not impulse. Comment this now. They won't read what I never wrote, because I'm not here to perform. I'm here to rule my mind. Number 8, the untouchable state. There is a level beyond silence, beyond detachment, beyond discipline. A state so rare, few even recognize it when they reach it. The untouchable state, it is not apathy, it is not numbness. It is the final form of self-command, a place where your peace is no longer reactive, your discipline no longer forced, and your power no longer loud. It's quiet, cold, calm, but never passive. You see, most people want to be strong, but they refuse to give up the very things that keep them weak. They confuse being loud with being powerful, being busy with being important, being seen with being respected. But strength isn't a performance, it's a presence. They cling to the need to be liked. They chase validation. They long to be understood. But the Stoic doesn't beg for peace. He creates it from within. He steps away from the noise not to escape, but to master the only territory that matters. His mind, every insult, every betrayal, every moment of neglect becomes a sharpening stone, not a wound. Seneca once said, "He who is brave is free." But bravery isn't loud. It's silent and surgical. It's waking up and choosing stillness when chaos surrounds you. It's standing in front of betrayal and refusing to bend. It's watching everything you once leaned on collapse and walking through the ashes without blinking. In this state, you don't run from pain. You don't fear loss. You've trained yourself to feel without flinching, to grieve without breaking, to love without losing yourself. For example, Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor and philosopher, lost everything: his family, his freedom, his health. Yet he wrote, "Everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances." That's what makes you untouchable, when nothing outside of you can dictate the condition of your soul. Moreover, in the untouchable state, you become immune to provocation. People may insult you, misunderstand you, ignore you, but it does not reach the throne within. Why? Because you no longer seek to be seen. You no longer argue with noise. You move like a shadow with weight. You speak like silence with meaning. And when you act, it's not for show, it's for alignment. That's where your power comes from. Your inner code, unshakable, private, final. Even though emotions still exist, they no longer own you. They move through you, like weather over stone. And that's the difference. You don't stop feeling, you just stop obeying every feeling as if it's truth. That is where real freedom begins. You feel, but you don't leak. You see, but you don't absorb. You respond, but only when it serves the mission. The untouchable state isn't the absence of emotion. It's emotional sovereignty. It's when you stop handing over your peace like spare change. When you stop making your soul accessible to people who haven't earned the key. So comment this now. My peace is not a negotiation. Because when you reach this level, your stillness is a signal, your silence is a sword, and your presence, a reminder that true strength doesn't need to announce itself. It just is. Most people will never reach this place. Not because they're incapable, but because they're unwilling to let go. They want peace, but refuse the silence. They want power, but cling to chaos. But you stayed, you absorbed, you faced every mirror and didn't look away. That means something. You're not like them anymore. From this point forward, everything changes. You don't just know the path, you walk it. Your silence carries weight, your mind holds the line, and your presence, that's your legacy. So now it's your move. Leave a comment, let it echo. Say, I choose the untouchable path. Like this video, subscribe if you haven't already, because every time we speak, it's not for noise. It's to sharpen the mind, to build a kind of power that doesn't fade. This is your new standard. Don't explain it, live it. Quiet, clear, complete. Let them wonder why nothing shakes you anymore.